Hey traders, good afternoon. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and today is Monday, February 1st. So, a bit of a reversal from what we saw at the end of last week in terms of S&P finishing up 1.6%. The Qs were the outperformer on the day. They were up 2.5%. Very strong there for the Qs. IWM also strong. I could put that in green here too, up close to 2.5%, and both IWM and the Qs rallied from the open a little bit over 1%. So some really nice strength there. The other story, of course, for the day was silver. A lot of short squeeze articles about that, or what posts. So I'll go on to some other things because I think you know that story by now. The VIX was down 9% for the day. So before we go into sectors, which I'll talk about, I'll definitely talk about them. We left Friday seeing a really weak tape and a lot of breakdowns going on. And I mentioned three things, right? So three things that I was looking for that kind of needed to turn around. So let's revisit those. The first being price and trend, right? So the first thing was watching that 50-day moving average. Price was very close to holding it, but it did not on Friday. But we did get a nice move back today, up 1.4% there, and now, I think what we want to watch, and part of this too, I think, is first of the money flows coming in, right? That usually happens on the first of the month. We never know because, a lot of big institutional funds had to de-risk a little bit last week, which was a contributor to what we saw. I think there was a couple of reports out saying that it was one of the biggest, de-risking weeks on the long side. I don't have the date since when, but it was a lot, and I think that you know that a bit by watching what transpired last week. A lot of longs and particularly crowded longs got hit pretty hard last week. So the level for us to watch is going to be, and this should be. Let me just move over here. 3.728.25. So we've got another level to watch. Below the 50-day moving average, very easy for me. If we get below the 50-day moving average, that means I want to be holding less stocks. If we're staying above the 50-day moving average, and even better above things like the 20-day moving average, as well as inside value, which we are inside value. We have not retaken the 20-day moving average, but we are inside value and we're above 50-day moving average. I want to be holding some risk. I want to be holding a little bit more risk, right? And the more confirmation we get, the more that the upside trend is intact, the more I feel comfortable with owning stocks. But for now, I think I said this a couple times in our Q&A session that we had at Tribeca Trade Group at 1 o'clock, and one of the things I said was Rome wasn't built in a day. This is nice to see us kind of hold some of these things, and if we look across to the Qs, right, you're going to see that this had a stronger move. Now, we did not get above that. We did not close above value, which is 323.15, which is a good upside level to watch for the Qs. Again, that's 323.15. But again, a really nice day. And then if we look at IWM, IWM is also inside value. So there's definitely support to watch. And if we go back to the S&P futures, another level to watch too is going to be this 3.745, which I think is a pretty good thing. We did get into value for the day. We rallied into there around 6 o'clock this morning and had a little bit of a difficult time. We actually peeled back, around the open. And then we managed to kind of get in there, and we are in value. And I would watch 3.745.75, or if you just want to call it 3.745 would be good. Just keep in mind we did this last week too, and it was a failure, right? So we'll keep an eye on that for the week. What else kind of transpired here? What else was on my list of issues and things I didn't like last week? Well, the VIX, we talked about how the VIX got to 32, 33, ended up, around there. Oh, sorry, this is today's candle. We got up to around 38, but we stayed around 35, which, in my opinion, that's a lot of risk, right? We got an 8.6% move to the downside in the VIX. We did not close below 30, which I would have liked to see. But again, Rome wasn't built in a day. This is progress in terms of these things. And then we'll see what we get tomorrow. If we manage to stay above 30, right, and the VIX kind of drops out of the value area for the week, then kind of I'm going to be a little bit more defensive, right? And I'll show you what I did in terms of my trades today. But the third thing that I mentioned on Friday was market breadth, right? And talking about how poor it's been today. Again, stronger. Look at the Nasdaq issues. 2215 advancing. Interesting 4-week highs were met. There was 6 highs, 6 new lows. S&P had 399 advancing names, 106 declining. Interesting here, 10 new 4-week lows, only 3 new highs. So it's good to see this. Again, a contributing factor here could be first of the money flows. So we'll just kind of have to see how this transpires. Another thing that I thought was interesting was, XRT. There's kind of been a short-term inverse relationship with what XRT, the retail ETF, is doing with the overall market. Remember, GameStop was this morning about 19% of this ETF, and then you have a lot of other short squeeze names in here as well. I don't know why this is not coming up on Thinkorswim, but apparently it doesn't want to. But XRT was down close to 6% for the day. It looks like it might be trying to come up here. Let's bring up the 1 hour because there's a level to watch on the 1 hour chart too, which again, I don't know if that's coming up. So those are the things that I'll continue to watch, right? I want to see a VIX break below 30. Well, here we go. All right, so the level to watch for XRT for the week is kind of right where we are, 80 to 60. And if that breaks, then you might be able to see a move down to 77. There was a decent amount of put spreads that went up today in XRT. So it's kind of been under the radar. People forget about how you can use the ETFs, right? Because if you look at GameStop, regardless if you're playing GameStop to the long side or the short side, it's a very, very expensive option. Now, the XRT options, there's no free lunch. They are also expensive, but not as expensive, right? And, some of those stocks are going to move together, right? A lot of the short squeeze names. So if you look at this, right, we talked about this a lot on Friday, but I'll just rehash this quickly, right? But if you look at the biggest holdings, right, GameStop is 19%, Blink. You got Stitch Fix in here, but I actually don't see a lot of some of the other ones. Well, Children's Place was a short squeeze last week. DBI was a short squeeze. So there's definitely some names that were short squeezes last week. All right, so that's the thoughts on that. Other sectors, semis, very strong. So a couple of the best performing groups, like we're definitely risk on. So again, I view that as a positive, right? We've talked about how semis for me is a leading indicator. This got just about above value, so no breakdown, right? Look at what the semis did today. So that's a good thing, right? That is a good thing. Biotech was also strong today. Right, biotech actually made an all-time new high. There's a lot of interesting things. Like if you look at Chipotle, that made an all-new high. That Chipotle reports this week, but really interesting to see some of these areas of the market, be able to do that. Right, what volatility? What a strong group. Back to new highs. Up 4.4%. K-Web was another group. I know this gets kind of put on the back burner every day because a lot of people just don't look at international markets. But coming into today, the Hang Seng it was up 2.1% today, right? That usually gives you a good signal about what the Chinese internets are going to do, right? I know that there's a lot of very U.S. focused investors and they don't look at these types of things, but take a look. When the Hang Seng is up over 2%, right? Because it trades overnight in Asia, and you come in and it's up over 2%, odds are you're going to get a decent move out of the Chinese internet names, unless there's some other news on the tape. But, we'll see what BABA does tomorrow. Really nice, I think, to see this back above 200-day moving average, back above all the short-term moving averages, above value. The only issue that this has got to get through is this weekly value area, which is the year. This value area is for the year, right? Whenever I go to the weekly chart, this value area is going to be there for the whole year, right? And it's a really good indicator that if you get above it, right, you're trending higher, right? So we're right at that point with BABA. So should be an interesting report. I gave a trade suggestion for this, even though BABA's a tough name on earnings, right? If you look at the earnings history of Alibaba, you could see the last 5 quarters, right? The most important thing is how the price reacts, right? Of course, analysts like to know whether a name beat earnings, possibly beat their expectations, or what their guidance is going to be. But if you're a trader, right, what you really care about is price. How does price react to the earnings? Right, in the last 5 quarters, it's actually moved down. So who knows? You could also argue, considering 5 straight down quarters, perhaps it is due to have a little bit of a beat. Maybe the expectations are pretty low. I tend to take, I don't normally take that view, and I stay away from a lot of names that have mixed earnings. But I think the expectations might be a little bit low for BABA. So. I'm leaning a little bit more bullish if I had to pick a side. All right, so that's that. Talking about what I traded for the day. Did I mention all the sectors? I think that's good enough. You had a bunch of them. There's the Chinese Internet ETF. Clean Energy also did fairly well today. My trades, SE was one name. I definitely reduced risk towards the end of last week, and I got caught a couple days. With the choppiness. But one name that is my favorite name to buy on the dip is SE. And I took some targets in this one today. I added into this 50-day moving average. It was kind of a hold my nose and buy it type trade. And, you could see where this is. So made a nice move. And I took some profits up at 236 today. Right. So that's a nice trade. IHI didn't really do much. I tried this one, and I had a lot of order entry problems here this morning. It's one of these things that is not that many people are talking about, but I mean, the system that I use did not work for the first hour and a half. So that's pretty difficult. All right, so to deal with that. Hopefully that gets better, but who knows? You have to make adjustments. You can't blame your broker. If you really hate your broker, then you change brokers. But there's no crying in trading. So these things are because of the volume explosion that we're seeing. But you could always change your broker. All right. So IHI, I noticed things had some relative strength, like Abbott last week. Very strong. HOLX was very strong last week. That added to gains today. TMO reported today, finished up 1%. Not that big of a move, but I did buy some IHI. Also, I noticed the strength that's going on in these diagnostic companies. I talked about that. I sent that chart out over the weekend. Real nice move out of consolidation and follow through, right? So I managed to hit a target in that. Also, a similar name is LabCorp, right? That's also been very strong. I guess analyzing maybe a lot of COVID tests, I would think. If we go back to the blotter here, yeah, so I even put, I try to communicate, but I could not buy, I was putting out orders and not getting any fills the first hour of the day. I was late on this stock too because of that reason. But this was pretty strong. I managed to get a target in this one, TIGR. More of a momentum play. But look, it fell right into its 5-day moving average. And some names just don't pull back that far. Some really strong names. So that's generally how that works. Snap was another name. I did not trade Snap today, but this was on our watch list trade, right? So our weekend watch list trade did pretty well today, up 7% for Snap, right? And running into its earnings report. All right, so I would watch for further upside in this one. Another one that was strong today was Amazon, right? Take a look at what the Amazon chart looks like. So, could be setting up for a good earnings report. We'll see. I will have an earnings trade on for that one. They report tomorrow after the close, I believe. Baba, I mentioned already Baba, but I did day trade that one a little bit today. Worked quite well. LTHM. So what gets interesting here is, the more names pull back, especially, as long as they're moving back into support, which LTHM, a lithium name, did, I took a shot. Right, I've got a defined stop of the 50-day moving average for this one for swing trade. Right. What else did we do today? Jemiah. Right. This one triggered. Right. Setting alerts, so important. Right. So I had an alert set right at the top of value for this. Kind of just looking at these 1-hour charts, it really kind of helps. Yeah, I've been getting away from looking at a 5-minute chart. Because sometimes I get shaken out of things on a 5-minute chart. But 1-hour chart, this triggered, and I hit 2 targets in this thing. So that's kind of what I'm liking to do right now, because the VIX is still at a 30, right? I mentioned the expression, Rome wasn't built in a day, right? We don't know if we're completely out of the woods in terms of volatility. So you take targets. I took 2 targets in this Jemiah trade out of here. And then the rest will be, the swing trade, right? I also dumped a trade today, right? It's a great day to kind of dump a trade that's not working for you that well. I will continue to watch FTCH, but hey, it's a great day to kind of take something off that's, while everything else that you own is probably up. But so that's it. A couple other names that I'm watching. We saw some really good signals. Lamb Research saw some calls, and I mentioned that this thing can get right to 504 today, so I posted this chart a couple times. That was a great place to take a little bit of a day trade. Lamb Research up 3.6, but it was up at 1.4%. Nice one in that one. RVP was another one that's very strong. Saw early call buying up 33%. $20 stock, but look at the move that this thing made. So there was a lot of these little movers like this. One that I'm watching for tomorrow that saw some call activity is ZI, Zoom Info. Look at the volume today. Not bad. All right, so that'll be on the watch list for tomorrow. All right, guys, I'll leave it there for the day. Have a great night, everybody. We are doing a member webinar that starts at 5 o'clock today on the MarketWebs. Right, we're going into detail about what the MarketWebs are showing us for the new month. Remember, we get a whole new value area every beginning of the month. So we'll be talking about a little bit more in detail about how to use them in trading techniques. And what some of the valuers are showing us per sector, single names, and as well as the major indices. Have a great night, everybody. And if you're not a member, right, here's how you sign up. You just go right here to my profile, click here, and you can get into tonight's webinar, which will be recorded. We also have a nice one for tomorrow, too. Can't wait for that one.